I do think Hillary Clinton will win the youth vote nationally. Young voters have been indoctrinated from kindergarten through the commencement address to vote Democrat, but I think the numbers will go pretty far down compared to 2012. And I think the most important thing, though, is looking at the Rust Belt. You look at Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, they're all tied. Liberal policies have led to deindustrialization of those towns. And, I mean, 500,000 millennials in Ohio alone are living in poverty.
So to have that election prediction play out, Hillary Clinton did win 55% of the youth vote compared to President Obama's 60% in 2012. But it is interesting to look within those numbers. Sal Lamastra is back with us. He's a political author and commentator, former National Youth Vote spokesperson for Trump-Pence 2016. Malcolm Kenyatta is a community activist and Hillary Clinton supporter. And Chris Prudhome is president of Vote America Now, a nonpartisan group focused on voter education. It's nice to have the band back together. Here we are. We spoke
yes, I'm excited to be here.
We spoke before
I
the
love
election.
happening now. I love being with you guys.
Thank you, Malcolm. We appreciate that. The Saturday before the election day, we all had this panel. We talked about millennial vote and what it was going to look like. And Sal, you gave us your prediction, and it looks pretty much in line. What do you think worked, and what do you think we learned from this election?
Well, exactly what I said. I think millennials in the Rust Belt were tired of these democratic liberal policies that have pretty much killed their economy and killed their opportunity for a better future. And we saw Wisconsin, where millennials were tied between Hillary and Donald when they came out. Pennsylvania, the same thing, only a couple-point difference. Even Minnesota, a very blue state, Donald Trump only lost millennials in that state by 5 points. So you can see that they're looking for something different. They're looking for someone to bring them back jobs, lower the cost of education, deal with the rising cost of health care, and they went with Donald Trump this time.
Malcolm, is that the message you get as a Hillary Clinton supporter?
Absolutely not, as you might imagine. What's important for all of us to remember as we're having these conversations is that Secretary Clinton won the popular vote. It is true that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, but she won the popular vote. So while there are some lessons for Democrats to learn, I don't think we should overlearn them. Millennials still want to talk about policies that are going to raise wages. They still want to make sure that we protect Obamacare, and getting rid of Obamacare and saying that wages are too high. These are all things that Donald Trump has said and that they're talking about doing right now. What I think has happened is, especially on our side of the aisle, this election, the outcome has really inspired a new generation of leaders that are going to hold him accountable, but also hold Democratic leaders accountable to make sure that they're holding the line against some of his policies, which I think will be a disaster for America.
We'll see. Chris, as a nonpartisan voice, what are your thoughts? What's the takeaway?
Well, it's one thing to be inspired, but again, if you don't actually go out there and cast your vote, it doesn't matter how inspired you are. It's about getting things done and solutions. I remember talking to Malcolm last week and said I was off base. The reality is this: she may have won the popular vote overall.
She got a lot more votes.
But when you break down the specific states, obviously Mr. Trump did better than others. So the reality is this: he is the president of the United States now. Of course, everybody obviously should respect that. We should be looking at solutions to move forward. We can't talk about the past. We can't talk about Secretary Clinton and how she should have won potentially. He is the president-elect and would be president of the United States. It's now time to come together and look at solutions. Mr. Trump, President-elect Trump, now has stated that he has a major African-American agenda. One is a reduction in crime, which is very essential. Criminal justice reform is the #1 priority for millennials. That is a major focus, and he has stated that in his new plan, which is released on Media Takeout, a major reduction in crime. So that's what we should be focusing on, the solutions moving forward, and how do we actually solve and fix problems.
What do you think about that, Sal? As you look at the list of priorities, how does the GOP continue to engage the millennial voter as they also age and remain the largest generation in our nation?
Yeah, well, one quick thing on the popular vote, that's still up for grabs. I mean, we just found out that 3 million illegals voted in this election, so if you add that into there,
I don't
think she really won. But going into looking at millennials,
go ahead, Sal.
Going out and looking at millennials going forward, yes, the GOP still has a far way to go because nationally we did not win the youth vote. And they are having this knee-jerk reaction to Donald Trump. So I think what's pivotal in the Donald Trump administration would be having someone in his administration who specifically engages young voters, tells them, here are the policies we're working on for you, here's how it's going to help you, and here's why we need them. They need to cut out the media, cut out the celebrities, cut out the social media, and really go straight to The liberal media. The liberal media.
Okay, I just want to be clear. Malcolm, let me ask you about this, because I was in North Carolina, a swing state, and it was very interesting after the election results came out and the hours that followed. There was a lot of conversation amongst the folks that we interviewed, nonpartisan, about the millennial vote and how they maybe overlooked that vote and were looking too closely at race rather than the millennial voters, and it looked like preliminarily that the millennials cast more ballots for Donald Trump than expected. Again, they're still sorting through some of these numbers. So I wonder, Malcolm, is it about policy for the Democrats? When you on reflection, is it about the policy of the Democratic Party, or is it about simply the candidate and whether or not millennials felt connected to that candidate?
Well, I definitely think it is about policies, and now that this election is over, we ought to spend a lot of time talking about them. Democrats have policies to talk about raising wages. On the other side, the president-elect has said that wages are too high. Democrats have talked about, and will continue to talk about, getting the cost of child care under control, making sure that we get the cost of college down. Those are the things that we're going to be fighting on. And you see people in the streets already opposed to a lot of the policies that Donald Trump has outlined. And as president, it's going to be his job to protect the entire Constitution, including the First Amendment. So I would say that, he can look forward throughout these 4 years to a lot of pushback when he talks about deporting 2 to 3 million people. This is why people are worried. And they're also worried, if I could just say one more thing,
sure, go ahead,
they're also worried because we've seen just in this past 6 days, we've seen hate crime after hate crime of people, and I know that he said yesterday in 60 Minutes he does not support that, but we've seen them on the rise and people doing them in his name. So we do need to come together as a country, but we can't do it with this type of rhetoric,
let me just ask you about
this type of hateful talk.
From North Carolina. I'm curious your perspective, again, as a nonpartisan voice, Chris. There were only 2 people that told me, and I talked to everybody. North Carolina is very friendly. There were only 2 people that told me that they weren't going to vote, and they had a very similar profile. They were African-American men in their early 20s, obviously very engaged with politics, very charismatic to talk to about this topic, and they both said that they just didn't feel connected to Hillary Clinton. It had really nothing else to do with anything else. They just didn't feel connected to that candidate, and they didn't really feel connected to Donald Trump, so they simply were not going to vote. What about that person? How do you engage that person and bring them in to politics so they feel inspired and feel engaged and participate?
Well, I think it's a great question. This is obviously a new generation and a totally different cycle. Senator Sanders had a movement. Mr. Trump had a movement. Secretary Clinton did not have that, I guess you could say, inspirational movement. For him to engage the millennial audience, he is going to definitely have to connect on issues that are important to millennials. He's going to have to really get down and have an open ear and an understanding to what's important to millennials. And again, I'll go back to criminal justice, education, and jobs. Those are key issues. If I were President-elect Trump, I would certainly look at opening up a type of special committee or that young people can kind of get engaged and get involved in. Sure. And of course, there are things going on in the streets, there are protests, etc. But that, again, that's not going to change policy. That's not going to move the needle. In order to get things done, we have to band together as a country. We have to say, okay, he is the President of the United States. Now wanting to cause friction and saying we're going to do everything we can to stop him, that's not how we have a productive society. We have a
that's what the Tea Party did for 8 years.
Hold on. Go ahead, Chris. Finish your. I was just going to say, we'll see. We're so early.
Yes.
We're still looking at the votes, and it's interesting just to see what are the initial thoughts. And I look forward to having the 3 of you back. And we have a little bit more time to digest some of the numbers.
Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you guys again.
Thank you, Malcolm, Sal, and Chris. Great to have you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.